Less than 10 days ago, the Philadelphia Phillies fell out of a playoff spot. Today, it looks like they'll never lose another game. It's been that kind of a season.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called these days. And on Instagram, I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of us is right here on the old YouTube page. On today's episode, we're going to be talking, we'll go over who owned baseball on the 22nd day of August. We're going to be honoring the man who essentially saved Fenway Park and Boston baseball as we now know it. And we're going to talk a little bit of how we have entered the binary part of the season. But first, in a few weeks ago, the Atlanta Braves had taken complete control of the National League West. They had opened up a 8.5 game lead. This is on August 6th, okay? An 8.5 game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies, who had stubbed their toe. And the Braves had bigger fish to fry than the National League East. They were only 2 games back in the win column and the loss column, so a true 2 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers. And it looked like they were going to be a team that was going to maybe make a run for being the best team in baseball. Well, things have not gone so well for the Braves then, as they lost again to Milwaukee, meaning in the next 15 games, they fell to 5-10. 5-10. And the Philadelphia Phillies have gone 10-4. They've pulled a CB radio, including winning their last 8 games. Now, a couple of days ago, I did a thing about this series between the Brewers and the Braves, and I didn't see I saw the Phillies won a bunch of games in a row, but I thought, all right, they're going on a nice little win streak. Hell, the Royals are on a nice win streak right now, but the Braves are clearly the class of the National League East. And Mike Russo is a god 2121 took umbrage to my praise of the Atlanta Braves by saying, Philly coming for y'all. That's clearly a shot at the Southern States. Sale lost 4 games with 7 head-to-head. Braves this season will end in Chicago in wild card. And at first I kind of rolled my eyes, and then you take a look at where things are right now. You take a look at the standings right now, and all of a sudden, that big, huge honking 8.5 game lead that existed just roughly 2 weeks ago has suddenly been reduced to 3. The Braves are on a losing streak, and they've lost the first 2 games. The Milwaukee Brewers, good for them. They have shown that they've won that series. And by the way, there were people who were wondering whether or not they're going to have a winning season this year. Well, all they have to do is win 1 more game this year, and they'll have won 82. The Brewers will not have a losing season this year. But more importantly for this point, the Phillies are only 3 games back. And it's a true 3 games back, 3 in the win column, 3 in the loss column. And this is what happened tonight was really, this was an 8-game winning streak now for the Philadelphia Phillies. And the person who really was the big star is the person who should make Phillies fans feel really, really good about themselves. And that's Andrew Painter. Andrew Painter had himself arguably the best game of his career. Andrew Painter put together, this is a guy who, young pitcher who, remember, stubbed his toe so badly that he was sent to the minor leagues. And he had the best start of his career. And all of a sudden, everything went as perfectly as you could go for them, because the Phillies jumped ahead to a to a 3-run lead right out of the gate. But for the 23-year-old Painter going up against the Cardinals, who came into Philadelphia pretty dang hot, he threw 7 innings of 1-run ball, and the final was a 12-3 absolute mashing of St. Louis. And this was coming after a day, the super dramatic game on the on Friday evening, when Alec Bohm hit a bases clearing triple in the bottom of the ninth, and to win that game. Since returning, this is according to NBC Sports Philadelphia, since returning from AAA, Painter's recorded a 3.62 ERA and has pitched into the sixth 3 times in his 5 starts. But here's where it gets good for Philadelphia. They're looking more and more like a playoff team. Remember, I picked the Phillies to win the pennant this year. And the addition of Painter as a effective starting pitcher to go along with Luzardo, Sanchez, when Wheeler's pitching well. Nola's had some decent outings recently. And Painter, all of a sudden, Philadelphia has one of the strongest pitching staffs, starting pitching staffs going into the postseason. Harper's hitting home runs and has said, you know what, I'll play wherever you want me to play. Kyle Schwarber hit yet another home run today. Luis Ariz still is hitting with a good batting average, is what they wanted for. But Bohm exploding is no small deal. That suddenly he is a huge weapon for this team. Right now, if the playoffs were to start today, the Philadelphia Phillies would not be hosting the wild card series, because that is still going to be in Chicago. But the way they're playing now, I would lean it would be the Cubs playing Philadelphia. That's where it would be, and the winner of that series would play Milwaukee. I know the Cubs are not a bad team, and maybe it's a little recency bias because the Phillies are on an 8-game winning streak and the Cubs are on a 3-game losing streak, but only 2 games separate them right now. And the image of the Phillies leapfrogging the Cubs is not outlandish. And Don Mattingly may win his second Manager of the Year award. But here's the thing. The Braves need to dust themselves off, because the Phillies are only 3 games back, and they play a big series in early September. And if you want to know how close early September is, we're currently in late August. The Philadelphia Phillies are on a absolute roll right now, and the type of roll that, quite frankly, is going to be super dangerous for any team that wants to face them. Yes, everyone's looking at LA and at and more to the point, Milwaukee, who is the first team to make sure they're, at least if everything goes wrong, they lose the rest of their games, they're 500. I picked the Phillies for a reason. And for a while, it looked like it was a bad pick. But now, not so much. Now, keep in mind, I picked them to play the Seattle Mariners in the World Series, which, when you look at the fact that the Mariners are a sub-500 team in late August, makes that into a terrible decision, right? Wrong. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit how we are entering the binary part of the season. All right, let's hear from our good friends over at Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales, accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best organizations are one that knows success is just about talent. It's about having everyone working together on the same goal. That's true in sports, and it's the same in business. When we talk about the Phillies, they were a bit of a mess earlier this year. Mattingly comes in and the organization has everyone pulling the same direction. And it's not just because Mattingly's a great manager, it's a coordinated effort across the entire organization. That's what makes it successful. Great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/lockedon. Hey, let's take a look at the trivia question from the other day. Trivia question was, who was the first reliever to reach 300 saves? Now, my dear friend, I'm not going to say his name, Cubs fan _1908 says Jeff Reardon. Phenomenal guess, but wrong. Scott Campbell got it correct when he said today's trivia answer, Rollie Fingers, everyday Sully. That's right, Rollie Fingers was the first one to reach the 300 career save mark. Now, many people do because, well, I don't want to say the save has been cheapened, but it's a one inning position right now, which is smart if you have an Eckersley or if you have a Mariano Rivera. But if you have created, say, like we got Pete Fairbanks and we're going to treat him like he's Mariano Rivera, that doesn't make any sense. None. All right, let me talk about what I mean by this is the binary part of the season. And some of you will probably figure it out. But we're now at the part of the year where it's no longer possible to talk about a moral victory or a frustrating loss. It's just at this point of the year, it's did you win or did you lose? In the end, did you score more runs than the other team? If the answer is yes, then that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters at this point because you're just piling up wins and you're seeing some of these races, not just the American League wild card, but also obviously right now the National League East, and the National League wild card is pretty tight as well. Everything isn't just about how tight everything is, and nothing else seems to matter. It's just results. The Blue Jays and the Yankees locked antlers. Dylan Cease was throwing a no-hitter until the 7th inning. The Yankees got close. They got close. They couldn't get the big hit to put the tying run across, and therefore that's the only thing that matters. Yankees lost. The Blue Jays won. The Blue Jays are creeping despite being 3 games under 500. They're on the verge of a playoff spot. The Brewers and the Braves locked antlers. Another good game. Henderson pitched well. The Braves lost, which means they have to keep looking over their shoulder at Philadelphia. The Brewers won, which means they continue to have a tiny bit arm's distance away from Los Angeles. Mentioned the Phillies, the Rays, and the Orioles. And the Orioles wound up tying that game in the 8th, winning it in extra innings. And that's the only thing that matters. One of the most intriguing things is that the Angels, who lost an extra inning game to the Rangers today, had a tremendous pitch performance, and with that, the Rangers' loss had just sent shockwaves through the American League wild card and allowing for teams to creep back in it. But the Astros, they play Sacramento. They lost, and that's going to haunt them. The Astros had a couple of brutal losses to both Sacramento and to Anaheim over the last couple of days. And if they miss, and they're right now even 500 and sitting on top of the AL West, if they miss the playoffs by a game or two, those games will come back to haunt them. Absolutely. The Red Sox had that wild game where they couldn't hit the whole game, and they wound up scoring 3 in the bottom of the 9th because the Giants' bullpen is terrible. By the way, I understand this is the weekend for the City Connect jerseys and everything like that, and everyone likes to wear funky jerseys. The green uniform and then the next day the yellow uniform for the Red Sox. Can we see the uniforms that I love for the Red Sox, please? I know I'm being nitpicky here, and the Red Sox won both games, so I should be happy, but come on. And then, of course, the Mariners, who were trying desperately to just hang around, they won because Randy Arozarena put on a one-man show. And guess who's now a playoff team? Well, I mean, the Twins would have been a playoff team today, but their bullpen collapsed. They were up 5-1 in the 4th. And San Diego, who's looking for their chance at a playoff spot, they wound up rallying. They hand the ball to Mason Miller. Padres win, and the Twins are not a playoff team right now. And do you know who is right now? The Guardians. Thanks to Joe Adell hitting a big home run. But it almost doesn't matter. You just look at the scores. And there are going to be teams that are going to look at some of the results of some of these games and go, we let one slip. You can't afford to let anything slip now. No more dumb losses. You can't make mistakes. And it's binary. By the way, I do want to say I'm actually recording this late on Saturday, and it is the birthday of one of my all-time favorite players, Carl Yastrzemski. And I mean, I loved Yaz as a kid. He was a connection to the Red Sox past. I saw him during the 1983 season many times when he was, it was his final season. I remember vividly the chase for 3,000 hits in 1979. I had my Yaz 3,000 T-shirt, and he's 87 years old, worth a salute. And remember, the whole concept of what we see and think about Boston sports fandom is thanks to the success of Carl Yastrzemski. Because yes, we can remember the teammates, and there's Ted Williams and Johnny Pesky and Bobby Dorr and all that. That's all nice. But the popularity of the Red Sox started to sag. This Fenway Park was empty. Certainly post-retirement of Ted Williams, Yastrzemski came right in, fit right in to replace Ted Williams, but the fans didn't show up. And the Red Sox and the awful Yankees looked at Fenway Park as an eyesore and wanted to tear it down. I've talked about this before, and I bring it up again. They wanted to participate with the New England Patriots, or actually they're called the Boston Patriots at the time, of building a downtown New England dome, a dome in downtown Boston. Symmetrical fences, AstroTurf roof in Boston, because they said Fenway Park's an eyesore. Fenway Park's too small. Fenway Park doesn't fit the needs of baseball now. And they looked around at all the other concrete donuts that were being built that at the time were the envy of baseball, because they were multi-purpose stadiums. That makes sense. We should go back to that. And they were larger capacity and more state-of-the-art. And Fenway was falling apart. And they wanted, and of course the Yankees being awful, they threatened to move the Red Sox. There were a lot of big markets out there that didn't have a team. And if you thought that was unthinkable, it was less than 10 years before the Brooklyn Dodgers left. So Fenway was going to face the Wreckers Ball. And then 1967, Carl Yastrzemski had one of the greatest Septembers in the history of baseball. It was one of the most thrilling pennant chases ever. 4 teams had a shot. There were no playoffs back then. Whoever was in first place goes to the World Series. And 4 teams went into the final weekend with a legitimate shot. And Yastrzemski put the team on his shoulders. And that summer, everyone showed up to Fenway. And people fell in love with Fenway Park again. And the whole nation, the whole idea of Red Sox Nation and the old town team and all that, it was going to be a concrete donut dome near where the big dig took place. How would you like the traffic there? And it would be the home of the Patriots and the Red Sox, and they were going to build another arena next to it, which would be the home of the Celtics and the Bruins, because they wanted state-of-the-art new stuff. And Yastrzemski, who became the first American League player with 3,000 hits and 400 home runs, took the Red Sox on his back and saved the franchise and saved Fenway Park. He's 87 years old. I don't know how much longer we're going to have him. And he looked old and frail when he was at one of the last old-timer get-togethers at Fenway Park. And he had big heart surgery, 20 years ago or something like that. But he's worth a salute, and let's salute him now while he's still alive. Thanks for 67, the Impossible Dream. Thanks for winning and making sure that Fenway Park is still part of our lives. Because I grew up in New England, and I would have been spending my summers at the New England Dome. Oh, what a way to spend your New England days indoors watching AstroTurf baseball and Carlton Fisk waving, but there's no green monster and foul pole to hit. It's just a symmetrical ballpark. That would have been Red Sox baseball. And the idea of Fenway Park would have been as vague as Crosley Field or Forbes Field or Sportsman's Park or any of those, or the Polo Grounds or Ebbets Field or Connie Mack Stadium or all those other old stadiums that looked absolutely beautiful, but hit the wrecker's ball. So happy birthday, Mr. Yastrzemski, grandfather of Mikey, the savior of Red Sox Nation. A big thank you to our friends over at Amazon for this limited break. This back to school season, spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy back to school shopping experience can be. It starts with a few items on the list, and suddenly you're shopping for supplies, clothes, lunch gear, tech, about 10 other things you didn't see coming, and it adds up fast. Now, let me tell you something. I'm a teacher, and I'm the one who puts together some of these lists. And the teachers, I send out the teachers list, and somehow every item seems perfectly reasonable on its own. Then you add everything together, and I realize I'm making sure the parents of my students are just spending way too much for kids need in 1 year. And when you start shopping back to back school essentials, you realize how quickly the list grows. Sorry, supplies, clothes, lunch gear, headphones, it just keeps going. That's why finding low prices on all the things you need makes such a difference at this time of the year. So remember, with Amazon's low back to school prices, to spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids. Okay, let's take a peek at who owned baseball on the 22nd day of August 2026. Randy Arozarena is doing everything in his power to keep the Mariners in it. He hit a leadoff home run. He then stole a home run as a catch and then hit a walk-off home run. And the Mariners topped the Chicago Cubs 5-4 and are hanging around despite that incredibly disappointing year they've had. They're only 2 games out. J.J. Bleday, he kept the doctor away. He got 10 bases with 4 hits, including a home run, as the Reds took out Arizona 11-5. Ryan Johnson, not the guy who makes the Knives Out films. He allowed 1 hit over 7 innings as the Angels blanked the Rangers 3-0 in a game that had a lot of repercussions for the American League wild card. And the aforementioned Andrew Painter didn't walk a batter over 7 innings. He struck out 8 Cardinals, allowing 1 run, and the Phillies rolled to a 12-3 final. Earning half wobs, Andrew Knizner, is that how you pronounce it? This is the first time I ever said his name out loud. He homered and added 2 more hits. The Giants lost 3-2. And Blade Tidwell also played great for the Giants. He pitched shutout ball into the 7th, I believe. He allowed just 3 hits, allowed no runs, but the Red Sox walked off in that weird 3-2 game. Brooks Lee went 3 for 4 with a home run, but the Twins bullpen absolutely collapsed in the 7-3 loss to San Diego. And nice to see Shane McClanahan back. He threw 5 shutout frames, but the Rays dropped the 3-2 final to the Orioles, and the Orioles are continuing to hang around. So that's who owned baseball. Let's just take one peek at the standings right now because it's banana boats. All right. The Rays have a 3-game lead over the Yankees. The White Sox lost to the Mets today, and because of the Guardians' victory, the White Sox are down to 3.5 back of the Guardians, 4 games in the loss column. And the loss from the Astros means the Astros are even 500. And even though the Rangers lost, they're 1 game out. But here's the thing. The Mariners, who are 4 games under 500 in late August, are 3 games out of first place. They're 4 games under 500, and there is a larger than 0 chance that they'll have home field advantage in the wild card series. The Phillies have pulled within 3 games of the Braves. The Cubs are 7 games behind the Brewers. They're not catching them. And the Dodgers are on. Do you remember they were on a little bit of a funk? Well, they're on a 5-game winning streak right now. And they're 9 games ahead of the Padres, who are playing pretty well right now. The wild card standings are also kind of strange. The Guardians are a playoff team right now. They are tied with the Rangers. The Red Sox and Yankees have a little bit of this 6.5 game difference out of that spot. So they're pretty secure in a wild card spot. But the Guardians are in it. are tied right now for a playoff spot, and the Jays are only half a game out. The Twins are 1 game out. The Orioles are 1 game out. The Mariners are 2 games out. So there is a possibility of the Blue Jays could take over the third wild card spot if they beat New York and Cleveland and Texas both lose. And if Cleveland and Texas both lose and the Mariners win, then guess what? They'll be 1 game out of a playoff spot. It's crazy. It's just insane. The Tigers are on a 4-game losing streak. They've dropped 8 of their last 10. They are 7 games under 500 in late August, and they are only 2 games back in the loss column from a playoff spot. That's nuts. That's nuts. In the National League wild card, the Padres have a 2-game lead over the Diamondbacks, and the Marlins are only 4 games in the loss column out of a playoff spot. I think it might be a tall order for the Marlins. Yuri Perez and them won their game against Washington today. But I think a big achievement for the Marlins would be finishing above 500, and that's sitting right there. So we got a fun Sunday coming up, including the Little League game. That's going to be on ESPN. That should be a lot of fun. And you get to see the Phillies are handing the ball to Christopher Sanchez, trying to make that winning streak continue. Rodon, it's interesting to see if Carlos Rodon can have a good game against the Blue Jays. Soriano, remember, I keep forgetting that the Blue Jays picked him up. That'll be an interesting game. Christian Javier, remember him? He's going to be pitching for your first place Houston Astros against Sacramento. It's going to be interesting to see if they can roll the dice and do something there. And Yusei Kikuchi, remember him? He's pitching for the Angels as they're going to try to tame the Rangers and make complete chaos out of the American League wild card. Ober versus Buehler in a game between Minnesota and the Padres. And then, of course, you have the final of the Braves-Brewers series. That's going to be tomorrow evening. And that's going to be at the Little League World Series on ESPN. And that's going to be fun to see. So a full docket of games, and we're in binary territory. Did you win? Did you lose? So now on video, we'll send you the first ever 24/7 YouTube channel on MLB, and on audio, check out Locked On MLB Game Night for your second listen. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever they call it now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, and let's do the trivia question. And it's a loaded one. On this day in 1998, who became the first player in MLB history with 400 home runs and 400 stolen bases? First person ever to reach those two totals in 1998. He was the first one ever. It wasn't just the only one in 1998. So there you go. All right, talking about binary baseball, honoring Yaz, seeing how crazy this wild card is, and the Philadelphia Phillies making my preseason predictions, easy for you to say, looking better and better. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.